So my career started kind of while I was still at uni, actually. So I was studying my psychology and sociology degree, but I also decided that I wanted to be a fitness instructor at the same time. So I did a side course and became a fitness instructor and taught all the way through uni. And when I finished uni, I actually managed a gym for about 6 months before I got a real job. And I found myself actually working at a management institute doing some administration work there, which was fascinating because I got to be around lots of really interesting people teaching management skills and leadership skills, which was fantastic. But it wasn't long before the internet really started getting up and running. It was in the very, very early days of the internet, and I applied for a job to become an internet business advisor back in the day, 1998, and I was out on the road selling websites to small businesses and teaching them really what the internet had to offer, and teaching them what a domain name was, and building websites that converted the emails that they were getting through their websites to the fax machines that they still had in their businesses. And that was my first startup, so I worked in a lot of startups. And then I continued my career into different online marketing roles and online sales roles and communication roles. And I've worked both in the private sector and in the retail sector as well. And so in the last couple of years, I ended up as the head of digital for a large Australian retailer, working with some beautiful stationery products that I absolutely love, before leaping out into my own business about 4 years ago. I decided to make the leap because I'd gotten to a point in my career where I really felt I'd explored what that career had to offer me, and I sort of felt a yearning in myself that I had changed and probably outgrown what that industry could really offer me. And I felt it was time to take some time out actually and discover a little bit more about what things was I really interested now in this stage of my life. Having had that career, what did I want to keep and what did I want to put down and pick up something else? But it really came actually through a bit of a crisis point. Working in digital is quite a full-on industry to work in because it constantly changes. When you're in online retailing, the doors don't shut at 5 o'clock. It's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week gig, and the expectations are very high. Retail is quite relentless. It's a constant sales cycle, and I'd worked on some big projects alongside of just running the day-to-day of the role that I had. We were re-platforming onto some new technology, our online store, and expanding into other countries and making sure that the website was also really mobile friendly, as well as starting a whole new digital photo printing business. And at that time, it was also when social was really taking off, and managing email marketing. And I had a massive year, and it got to November of that year. The project that I was working on had run late, which is a disaster in retail because you're leading up to Christmas. And I was sitting at my desk in November sobbing, and I just had nothing left in the tank. And I thought I really need some time out. It also coincided with some quite big years personally behind the scenes going on in my family. And I thought I can't do another year of what I've done, and I really need some time out. And so I was actually sitting at my desk and I was sobbing. I thought I really need to go home. And as I was texting a friend of mine, they sent me a text back, and it was this Buddha quote saying, you can search the whole world looking for someone who is more worthy of your love and affection, but no one is more worthy of you than that. I laugh now because apparently it's a fake Buddha quote, but when I realised that was true, I thought, if I could see my best friend going through what I was going through right now, what would I wish that they would do for themselves? And within less than a heartbeat, it came back to me as, you need time off, and you don't just need the rest of the afternoon off or a couple of days off. You need some time off. So I went back to work and asked for 3 months off, and I got 5 weeks, which was pretty great. And during that time, I thought, I need to take a leap because I want to explore these other parts of myself, and I want to have some more control over my own time. I've gotten to a point in my life where I felt like I really wanted to have control over my energy and where I spent it and how I spent my time. And I thought, if I don't make this leap now, I might lose the opportunity to do it. And also too, if I want my kids to actually be courageous in their life and encourage them to do that, I want to show them how it can be done. If I hadn't have had that really low point, there is no doubt that I would have manoeuvred to stay there, but perhaps change some of their conditions potentially. Like, I actually went back to work part-time, and after 5 weeks of that, they said, we want you to come back full-time, because it wasn't a part-time role. And that was the nudge that I needed to say, okay, it was kind of like the are you in or are you out moment. And I'm like, I'm out. So for me, if I hadn't have reached that kind of really low point, I probably would have tolerated a lot more than I think that I really should have, or that was what was humanly possible to take on. So I'm really grateful for that experience, because I learned a lot through it, and I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about developing more healthy boundaries about what's okay and what's not okay, and also speaking up for myself. But I do reflect back and think, are there other things that I know now that perhaps I would have done differently? And there are, but that's the wisdom of hindsight. And I don't beat myself up about that now. I just put that in my back pocket and say, take that with you to the next situation that you might find yourself in like that. Courage for me is really about feeling afraid to do something and then going and doing it anyway. It's about taking positive steps in the direction that you think that you would really like to go, even when you feel terrified by the idea of doing that. You can have moments of feeling full of self-doubt about not being able to pull it off, or that you don't have what it takes, or, who am I to be doing this? And then putting that to the side and going, that's all okay, but I'm going to have a shot at it anyway. So courage for me isn't the absence of fear. It's acknowledging it and seeing it for what it is, and saying, I'm not going to die if I try this. No one that I love is going to get hurt by me doing this. I'm going to actually just try it and see where it goes. And if it doesn't work out, then at least I'll figure out why, but I won't live a life of regret of not trying. To do something courageous means that there's something risky about what you're doing. It means that it's uncertain, and it means that there's absolutely a degree of vulnerability in it. So if it doesn't, it really is, if it doesn't scare you, it's probably not that courageous. Courage really is being vulnerable, and vulnerability is defined by risk, uncertainty, and emotional exposure. So if you don't have something in that realm going on, you've probably mitigated a risk so far that you're not being brave anymore. So it definitely has to be something that you don't know how it's going to turn out. That's what makes it brave. I think a lot of us hide out in our lives because of the uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure, and we get consumed by those things because we think, well, what if it doesn't work out? What will people think? What if I fail? What if it's not perfect? What if I'm criticized for those things? What if I let people down? What if I let myself down in the process? And so we get swallowed up by the shame of it not going to plan, and that stops us from even getting out of the starting blocks, to potentially something that could be great and that does go well. So I think recognizing that we all feel those fears, and that, well, if you do let somebody down, that's not the end of the world, and you can talk about it. In fact, talking about it is the antidote to shame. Having a conversation around it is what shines a light on the fears that we have, and things only get better when they're talked about. And you often hear people say that went so much better than what I thought it would, or I'd made that conversation out to be so much worse in my head than what it was actually in reality. The other thing is that it's not necessarily just a one-time conversation. So if things don't go to plan and you have a conversation about it and you're still not there, you need to keep talking about it. We don't just kind of conquer things in one shot. It's an evolution and it's a continual process of growth. So finding people that you trust, that you can have conversations with over time, becomes really important to building your courage muscle, because when you do try courageous things, guaranteed it will not always go to plan and you will fall flat down on your face. So the trick is to learn how to get back up and go again, and not stay down there. That's the wisdom of growing up, I think, of uncovering about it's okay to fall over, because I know I've got what's in me to be able to get back up again, and I know that I can talk to people that I trust about it. I know that I can journal and write this story down and rewrite a new ending for it. I know that I can interrogate some of these things that are going on with me and learn from that and take that forward with me going forward, rather than feeling completely consumed in a black hole and not being able to get out of that. And if you do find that that's where you are, you need to reach out. You need to reach out to get some help. And courage is like a muscle. The more courageous acts we do, the stronger our courage muscle gets. So start with really small things, and small things might be reaching out to have a conversation with someone or ask them a question, someone that you admire, with just curiosity, as the motivation, and just see where that takes you. The worst thing that they can do is say no, and no one's going to die from that. I think one of the biggest regrets that you will ever have is around what you wish you had had the courage to do but didn't. And there's actually a fantastic blog post by a woman called Bronnie Ware, who was a palliative care nurse for 8 years, and she wrote the top 5 regrets of the dying. And the number 1 regret was wishing that they had had the courage to live a life true to themselves rather than the life that others had expected of them. And I think once you can fully appreciate being true to myself and the things that light me up and the things that I'm interested in and the things that will serve me going forward in the rest of my life, and hold those really to the centre of the core of who you are, I think that in itself actually helps build your courage. Being able to live with your choices for your life, for the whole of your life, is a really powerful guiding principle, which I had wished I'd learned a lot younger in my life, a lot sooner in my life, and definitely something that I will be encouraging in the lives of my children. I think over time your choices will change, undoubtedly, and that is what we are designed to do as human beings. You will not be the same person at 18 that you will be at 28 or 38 or 48 or 58, whatever. Thank goodness. We are designed to grow and evolve and change over time. And there's a massive thing that I learned very early on, which I'm really fortunate that I tripped over, was that I'm doing the best that I can with what I know right now. And what I realised later in life is that's actually a self-compassion practice. And to say it's okay for the choices I made then, for who I was then. Would I make a different choice now, knowing what I know now? Probably. And that's a good thing. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to have grown and learned about that. And to be self-compassionate around that. And if you shake some people loose in making those different choices, that's okay too. We're not here to keep everyone around us happy. That's not our responsibility for our whole lives. The best thing that we can do as human beings is be a self-aware, happy contributor to society. That's the best thing that we can contribute. It's not about trying to keep everyone else happy at the expense of our own authenticity. That's when we get into a lot of trouble. And at times that's going to piss other people off. And that's okay. I think partly it's a bit of an organic process, because you will tend to find yourself involved in different kinds of interactions with different kinds of people. You will end up putting yourselves in different places, or listening to different things, or talking about different topics, or seeking out people that are more aligned with the things that you're interested in. That might be in the workplace, or that might be in your social activities. So I think partly there's a bit of an organic process that you just don't tend to seek out certain people anymore because they're just not interested in the same things. But I think it's a very brave move to have a bit of a discussion with the people that you love, like your family, around saying, you know, I'm actually opening up to some new ideas and to some new thoughts around the world, and I'm realizing that I'm making different choices than I was in the past, and what I really need from you is just your encouragement to do that, not necessarily to change my mind, but to be the safe place to land as I explore these different things. That's a really hard conversation to have. But that's the one that enriches a relationship and deepens a relationship rather than continues to drive a wedge through it. And it's not perfect, and you don't just, do it once and it's all resolved. It's an ongoing conversation. And it's also about being open to changes in others as well.